From the closed Longfellow to the crumbling Charlestown, Boston bridges are in bad shape. But now another Boston span has been named the nation's most dangerous. Plus, on the brink of war.
Our goal is not the victory of might, but the vindication of right.
The secret recordings that belie the president's public defiance during the Cuban Missile Crisis. And does the intercepted al-Qaeda terror threat justify NSA wiretapping? Now on Greater Boston. Good evening. With so much focus and hand-wringing over the closure of the Longfellow Bridge, a main connector between Boston and Cambridge, another bridge may be in even worse condition. According to Travel and Leisure magazine, the Storrow Drive Overpass at Clarendon Street is the most dangerous bridge in the country. Adam Riley has more.
It's not the kind of first-place finish you want. According to Travel and Leisure magazine, this spot on Storrow Drive, where eastbound traffic dips underneath traffic heading to the west, is the #1 most dangerous bridge in America. That ranking is based on Federal Highway Administration data, which gives the overpass in question a sufficiency rating of 0. The really unsettling thing about that damning Travel and Leisure ranking is that to the naked eye, there's no indication this spot is unsafe. I'm standing on top of the structure in question right now, and I have to say the ground feels totally solid. What's more, there's no kind of sign or marker indicating that by standing here or driving there, you're taking your life into your hands. But maybe there should be. As Travel and Leisure puts it, the pavement of the upper deck is too thick, straining the corroding steel beams that support the structure from underneath. In a statement to Greater Boston, the Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation rejected Travel and Leisure's conclusions, saying it's made a number of repairs to the bridge in recent years and monitors it closely to assure the public that the bridge and tunnel are safe for travel.
And joining me now is former Massachusetts Transportation Secretary James Aloisi and David Westerling, a professor of civil engineering at Merrimack College. Welcome. So, Jim, what's your take on this? Is this one of those hit and runs that magazine love to do, you know, the top 10 list, the top 100, the best places to go, the most expensive schools or the worst colleges? Or is it legitimate data because it is based on Federal Highway Administration data?
Well, I think it's legitimate data, but the question is, what does it mean? I wouldn't be taking my safety advice from Travel and Leisure magazine. No offense to them. Look, we have a problem, not just in Massachusetts, but nationally, but we certainly have one here, which is we have chronically underfunded our transportation system. This is deja vu all over again. We know that that's the case. And here we have a bridge that was built in the Truman administration, right? I mean, I'm a young guy at 59, but if a bridge is older than me, it's old. And if a tunnel's older than me, it's really old. So these bridges were not meant to, I think, take the loads that they currently take. Now, people should appreciate the fact that DCR is very careful about inspecting these bridges. They're inspected on a 2-year cycle. It's being inspected this year as we speak. If there was a true safety issue, they wouldn't let people use it. But it begs the larger question, which is, what's the state of our infrastructure? What will it take to get it to a place where people don't have to have this conversation? The answer to that question is always tough medicine, because it requires the kind of money that we just don't have.
Yeah, David, interesting, the irony being, this morning I got on at Berkeley, because that's exactly where it is, Berkeley getting onto Storrow Drive, and there's a big sign there with the dots, you know, all on it, and it says, Longfellow Bridge closed. So it's warning you to stay away from that, but yet it's directing you over this one.
Yes, yes. Well, this bridge is actually a tunnel, and so there are some situations where we really don't have a tunnel inspection program per se, an inventory for tunnels. Basically, we have a list of deficient bridges, and so all of the structures now are put into this database, and this database it tries to deal with tunnel structures acting as a bridge. So the bridge is very long and it has very redundant structures. It has beams every 4 or 6 feet. So the possibility of a failure is very, very low. The other thing that is interesting here is that a lot of these bridges are on 4-lane highways are designed for trucks And as you know, there are no truckloads on Storrow Drive. So there's a little bit of a problem here in saying that this bridge is actually structurally deficient.
Well, the thing that caught my attention was this thing about it being too thick. So that what is too thick? The macadam? What is it? The
macadam. It's a very solid structure, and the deck is actually rated as a 6, which is a fairly good deck for the eastbound traffic. For the westbound traffic. For the eastbound traffic traveling through the tunnel, there's really no safety problem per se. As a matter of fact, what they did, DCR recently spent about $1.8 million on removing that overburden that used to be there. So there was a recent construction activity at the location, and basically it was to remove some of that overburden and make the bridge safer, actually.
We have some pictures that they can put up in a minute of both the Longfellow and the Charlestown Bridge, the underpinnings of it.
Yes.
You were talking about the state of our infrastructure. It is just, mind-boggling to look at these things. You can't even believe that they've kept these bridges open as long as they have, both of them. And this one, as you point out, David, you can't really see what's going on, but you can certainly see in those.
No, I think the problem, and talk about thickness, what's really thick is, frankly, getting through to some of the decision makers on Beacon Hill that we need to do something more than what they did this year. I mean, the governor, to his credit, and I tried with him in 2009, as you know, to get a more meaningful gas tax put into place so that we can have the resources to do this. These bridges, particularly over the Charles River, are sensitive not just because of the traffic they carry, but because of the environmental impacts they have on the bridge, on the esplanade. They're very tricky, they're very complicated, they're very expensive. If we want Boston and Cambridge and this greater Boston area to maintain itself as a place where people have safe mobility, where they can feel proud of it, we have to reinvest. There's just no other solution to it. And what we've been doing year after year after year is just enough to get by. Just enough to get by at some point means Travel and Leisure puts that black mark on you as a place where people scratch their heads, do I want to visit there?
Well, David, I remember, gosh, it could have been 10 or 15 years ago now when they talked about closing the Esplanade and moving the Storrow Drive over to that so they could take care of all these bridges that went. That thing went by the wayside because all the environmentalists. But is it going to take something that drastic?
Well, in 2007, we did a report on the Longfellow Bridge. It was called Our Legacy of Neglect. And it was quite a read. And a few days after we released that report, the bridge in Minneapolis went down. And so we came back on the air and in the newspapers. And people have kind of rededicated themselves to fixing the Longfellow Bridge. And it's been 7 years since that time. But I think that's going on the right track. People have to take interest in their infrastructure. It's a public safety issue. It's a monetary issue for sure.
Yes, it is.
But I get the feeling that people are ready to make those investments, and they want to preserve our future.
Maybe this will help the conversation.
I'll be thinking about it every time I go into that bridge. David Westerling, Jim Aloisi, thanks so much.